Hello and welcome to the Premier League Darts Preview with me, Harry Dunn. Today we're coming to you from the wonderful Village Hotel here in Leeds ahead of night 14 of Premier League Darts. Joining me, I'm pleased to say, is sports broadcaster Abigail Davies. Why are you wearing a Wales shirt?
Because I know your love for our national football team. I thought as well, being in Leeds, we're about to film at Elland Road, just paying homage.
Yeah.
To all of the Welsh stars that grace that Elland Road pitch. And I love your nostril flare right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty annoyed at myself that I'm actually wearing a red shirt as well, because it looks like it's sort of like a Wales fan club, but it isn't. Today we're going to be looking ahead.
That's not what you said off air.
Oh, what?
That's not what you said off
air.
Oh,
listen, there's things that are said over Instagram
you
that
were,
remain
you were talking
on Instagram.
about Joe Roden being magic.
Joe Roden, you're a phenomenal player. Yeah, congratulations on promotion, but we're straight down to the Championship next season. Coming up, we'll be looking ahead to all of the fixtures here in Leeds and the Premier League. By the way, Abigail, I've just got to say, the venue is absolutely top-notch. Just take a look around. Telly after telly after telly. You think about the Champions League last night, Champions League again tonight. This is the perfect place to watch some footy, isn't it?
Absolutely. This is where we're all coming, isn't it, for PSG Arsenal?
100%.
I imagine even Arsenal fans have gone, do I want to go to Paris or do I want to come to Leeds and watch it in the Village Hotel? And I think we know what their answer is.
I hope there are mops and buckets on site just so we can clean up all of those tears.
So glad you ended that with tears.
Well, it could have gone down any sort of avenue just there. Because, do you know what? Because it could have gone down any avenue, tears, or maybe them wetting themselves, because obviously they've beaten PSG 5-0. I hope it's not the latter. And I mean, I'm not being biased at all, but I hope it's a really horrible time for Arsenal fans in PSG and they get absolutely thumped. By the way, the pool and the gym here as well, top of the range here at Leeds Village Hotel, and the pub and grill. I tell you what, I am a sucker. I'm an absolute sucker for the buffalo chicken wrap, right? I had another spuddy again last week. Jesus. Quite literally, best jacket potato I've ever had. And then, Mum, if you're watching this, I know that yours is special. But right here at Village Hotels, the food is just next level, Abigail.
It really is. It really is.
Don't forget, also, as well, settle in for a night of live sport and great food at your nearest Village Hotel. There's 33 locations across the UK, everything you need under one roof. Let's get into the action. Right, quarter-final one, Rob Cross versus Gedwin Price. It's typical that we kick off with the Welshman, with him being the first one with the Welsh shirt there as well. And Abigail, I still think there's a lot of question marks around Rob Cross at the moment. Poor on the Euro Tour over the weekend, really struggling with his consistency at the moment. You get real flashes of brilliance from Rob Cross. Then other points, I mean, we've said it all season that he almost just wilts towards the end of games. He can storm ahead to a lead, and then all of a sudden, he folds. Quarter-final loss last week. Do you think if he loses to Gezi in that opener, done and dusted?
Well, I have to say, I think one of the most interesting things about this tie is for so long we talk about the Premier League and how winning your quarter-final match, that's kind of, that small trickle-in of points is really, really important. But when you look at Rob and Gedwin Price, it's so contrasting, isn't it? Because Rob Cross, yes, he's had one win across his last 5 weeks in the Premier League, but he's done really well at normally getting over that quarter-final hurdle. As for Gedwin Price, it's all been about when he has made it through to the semi-final, more often than not, he then backs that up and makes it to the final, if not goes all the way and wins the night. But Rob Cross, I think he's been exceptional in terms of quarter-final performances, because you look at those last 5 weeks where he's only picked up one win. He's averaged 98 twice, a ton twice, and then 110 in defeat. The performances have been pretty good from Voltage, but like you said, when he does then make it to the semi-final, he finds it really, really difficult to back up that quarter-final performance.
I think he's had two of arguably the best clutch moments in the Premier League so far this season. You look at the
170
in Brighton, and then the 170 against Gezi on home soil. I mean, that was a case of what I mentioned of Crossy storming ahead, letting Gezi get that space, occupying that bit of his brain. Should have been down and out, and then comes out of a fish and just silences everyone in Cardiff. You know, it's great having those moments, but I want to see it consistently from Rob Cross out of the whole 17 weeks. And it pains me to say, I don't think Rob's going to make it to the O2.
No, I don't think he will. I think he needed to turn some of those quarter-final victories into semi-final wins. He has never won a Premier League night in this format of the game. And you look at Gerwyn Price in contrast, it was strange last week, wasn't it? Bowing out with that 80 average. It was just so unexpected. I don't think any of us expected to see that. But you look at his numbers, as I mentioned, so often when he wins that quarter-final, only 2 defeats he has suffered in the semi-final stage. And that is why he is where he is in the table. It looks pretty certain at the moment, doesn't it, that he'll be making just his second appearance at the O2, and it's just reward for the changes he has made in 2025. We've all spoken about them, the change in demeanour, the change in his attitude, and I think even his reaction now when he posts that 80 average, the reaction from him is different, isn't it, on social media? Yeah. Yes, we still expect him to go out on Instagram because it wouldn't be a Gerwyn Price defeat if he didn't take to
always
Instagram afterwards.
Always expect a Gerwyn Price statement.
But, it is such a fantastic conversion rate he has had when he's won his opening game. I think this one's going to be really, really interesting. But I think Gerwyn Price has already got enough points in the bank that it doesn't really matter too much for him. Rob Cross, it is still an outside chance, but if he were to come through this one, do we have any confidence at all that he would then be able to back that up? No.
What is it with Gerwyn Price and some of these players that we're seeing as well? So obviously you see the performance that he put against Luke Humphries, then he's coming out and averaging 80. We've had a lot of conversations about this on the Darts channel before. Is it sort of that up and down effect where you're potentially playing 3 games, and Gezzy's won his nights and he's been phenomenal throughout the whole season. But when you have such a blockbuster game against someone like Luke Humphries and the checkout rates that he had as well, then you're going back out again, you've already got that feel for the crowd. Do you reckon it's that adrenaline, it's that high of, being so far up there, you're going backstage, you probably go back onto a practice board, and then you're like, you've got nothing left in the tank again.
And that's exactly what it looked like, isn't it? But it is obviously incredibly difficult to go out there and replicate what he had done in that first game against Luke Humphries. I don't think we expected to see quite that level, but I expected a lot more, and I'm really surprised that he wasn't able to find more in that semi-final. And then, at the weekend on the Euro Tour, yes, he went out in his first game to Raymond van Barneveld, just couldn't find that scoring in the last leg. I thought it was a pretty decent performance from him overall. It was just that he couldn't find it in that last leg decider. So, no worries for him. I just think as well, when the schedule is so relentless, that's going to happen. That sort of thing. You're not going to be able to find it every single game that you play in. It would be Luke Littler-esque, wouldn't it? Because he seems to be able to do it. But I think it's so difficult to find that level time and time again. And it was just one of those things that's happened. A boring answer, but it's kind of the truth.
This is going to be the last show that me and you do together this season. But with you wearing the Welsh shirt and us talking about Gerwyn Price, just what would it mean to you as a proud Welsh person if Gerwyn Price was to win his first Premier League title at the O2 on May 29th?
It'd be incredible. Look, I am just a darts fan. Yes, I am a ferretette. I'm a huge Johnny Clayton fan, and him winning the Premier League, the following day I almost bought myself a ferret in celebration of that event. But yes, of course it would be remarkable, and I think, just as I've touched on already, it would be incredible just because it would be a just reward for the changes that he's made this year. He realised, that there were things that he needed to rectify on and off the board, and I think it would be just reward for the work that he's put in. And of course, it would set Wales up beautifully for the World Cup.
And I think other players would probably be worried as well, especially with the match play coming up. If Gezzy wins the Premier League, there's Gezzy being Gezzy when he's on form, but Gezzy with a trophy to his name and on form as well. I think players in other major competitions should be even more worried if he gets his hands on this as well.
Yeah, it's blockbuster, but I do think on that note, I know he's not in the Premier League, but you look ahead to the match play and you mentioned players picking up titles. Gary Anderson at the weekend, just a word on him, because he was absolutely
electric,
sensational. The first player ever to successfully defend that title, and I just think we are in for some really exciting times yet again with the Flying Scotsman. He just does this, doesn't he? He goes away, picks up a Euro Tour title. We may not even see him on the Euro Tour again this year now. He's done that. He's ticked that box. He's got himself to within, I think it's like 1,750 quid of Peter Wright, so he could be heading to the World Cup as Scotland's number one as well. So there's that dynamic, but I just think it's worth mentioning what Gary Anderson has done, because he's now only one of 3 players to have picked up more than 1 title on the Pro Tour this year, and I just think it's worth a mention because, my goodness, watching his throw at the weekend, seeing him in full flow, there are very few finer sights.
I love Gary Anderson so much. So much. And we know he doesn't want to be in the Premier League anymore, but if there was just any chance in the near future that Gary could come back, it'd be absolute fireworks.
On that, you mentioned that he doesn't. It was only about a year ago, Rob Cross was saying to us when we were away on a Euro tour, do you know what? If I got invited to World Series and Premier League, I'm not going to do them. I don't want to play in them. I definitely don't. I'm much happier without them. And now look at him.
Look at Crossy.
Yeah.
Hey, look at Crossy. Right, Nathan Aspinall versus Luke Littler. I thought last week, you know, we've seen it over the last couple of weeks, to be fair. Nathan Aspinall showing less respect to Luke Littler on the Oki, which I think is actually quite refreshing to see. If you think about the Worlds when it was Stephen Bunting and Nathan Aspinall going up against Luke Littler, it was like playing your mate. He's got that devilish look about him, Nathan. He really does. I mean, he knows exactly what is at stake at the moment. He wants to be at the O2. Everyone wants to be at the O2. Of course they do. But early exit in the Euro Tour over the weekend, just how important is it for Nathan to remain focused going into this quarterfinal with Luke Littler? And how important is it for him to put points on the board so he can make that top 4?
Yeah, he's so close, isn't he, at the moment? And I think he'll really feel that this is his opportunity because of the question marks surrounding Michael van Gerwen at the moment, who is just above him in the league standing. He'll see this as a perfect opportunity. He has, though, you know, you can't ignore his record against Luke Littler. He's only won 1 of their 13 meetings. And he has struggled a bit over recent weeks. He turned such a massive corner, hadn't he, Nathan Aspinall?
Yeah.
Picking up his first Euro Tour title, then backing that up with another run to the final. Then he made the final on the Pro Tour. The amount of admiration I have for that man. I was over in Rosmalen for the Players' Championship events where he made the final on the first day. And he'd been saying over recent years that he just didn't feel like he was a floor player, and he was reminding all of us and himself that he certainly can still do it on the floor, and he was excellent. But in the final in particular, he went full mad as Rasma on us because he was playing purely on the 19s.
Yep.
Asked him about that later, he said it was because his shoulder, the amount of pain he was in, and he actually showed me when we were at Rotterdam Premier League, the difference in his 2 shoulders. The one was just so much further down. It was incredible to see the amount of pain that he was playing through, the pain barrier. I don't know how in Rotterdam he went out there and won his first game. I have absolutely no idea how Nathan Aspinall did that, but I have so much respect for how he continues to play through all of these problems that he endures. But you can't ignore that his form has dipped off a little bit.
Do you think it's since
that
that
little
Premier
purple
League
patch?
that Premier League night in Manchester? It's sort of been since then, because I think there was a video of him where he obviously went on a night out and was karaoke singing a bit of Eminem. I think it's Without Me.
Yeah.
This looks like on top of me. I think it was probably that night out which might have been the turning point.
And I'd
for
like
Nathan
to just
Aspinall.
thank you for that, because you have just given me some horrendous flashbacks to my night out on Monday there by mentioning karaoke and Eminem. So thank you so much for doing that to me whilst we are doing a live podcast, because I am now sweating. But yeah, I think that was kind of where it started to unravel a little bit. But look, the injuries are playing a part, but my goodness, what a fist he has made of it. With all the question marks that were over him coming into this campaign, it has been fantastic to see the levels that he's produced. And I don't think he is any way out of the running, even if he suffers a first-round defeat to Luke Littler in this one, because, as I mentioned, you can't really argue with that record that the Newcastle for him. He has pushed him close a few times, Nathan Aspinall, but that record, it is quite staggering. But I have to say on the Nuke as well, it's been really interesting, hasn't it, watching over recent weeks the narratives that are forming, the stories about how he needs somebody to be managing his schedule so that he doesn't get burnt out, so that he's still got that enjoyment. Are the crowd starting to now want to see the demise of Luke
that was
Littler?
Dr. Linda Duffy speaking to Tungsten Tales. Good that you mentioned that, because I actually had a question on that as well. And she's saying that he could retire within the next 5 years. And I mean, 5 years' time, he's going to be 23. And I mean, because obviously you're so close to the circuit, I'm so close to the circuit. We meet managers, we meet the players, we meet everyone that's around them. What is it that you've seen that needs to probably change with Luke Littler and probably his lifestyle at the moment? Is it a case of the burnout has come in because he's doing so many extra curricular events? You're looking at the Baller League and stuff like that. He's there with Angry Ginge. Yes, he's got to have a life, but at the same time, are you worried from what you see as a broadcaster that Luke Littler could actually be retiring in 5 years, like Dr. Linda Duffy has suggested?
I'm not worried at the moment. We've not heard anything from Luke Littler to suggest that we should be worried. And it's a tricky balance, isn't it? Because he's on this crest of a wave. He's being invited to do things that I'm sure he could have only dreamt of doing. And it's wonderful to see him getting all these opportunities. When it comes to on the dartboard, one of the things that I hope he never loses, regardless of how long he's in the game, is when he burst onto the scene and seeing him on the development tour and, playing Modus Super Series prior to him getting a tour card, it was just his sheer love of the game, and it's that passion that makes him so relatable. It's the passion that we all have as darts fans, because that is what he is. Yes, he has an ability that you or I don't have, or I should maybe speak to myself, because I have seen a 42 dart leg from you, so you're not too far off his level.
7-1-80 to my name. I'm pretty much a world champion.
But yeah, I think it's as long as he doesn't lose that, and I think that's where it gets a little bit wearing, because it's media duty after media duty. It's speaking about
Everyone
things
wants
constantly.
a piece of him.
Everyone wants a piece of him. Everyone wants to dig that little bit. And I just think, where's his privacy? We're now seeing articles about him having a girlfriend, which I just find utterly weird, if I'm honest. Why are we focusing on this 18-year-old's girlfriend? I do not understand it. I think he deserves that privacy. He deserves to have that space away from the cameras that maybe he doesn't have at the moment.
100%.
And I think when you see all those extra things, that's where people want to start tearing him down, which is completely wrong. But how many people have we seen it with over the years?
That's what the British tabloids do, and they've done it for so many years. You'll put you on this pedestal, and as soon as you do something wrong, we'll let you know how we think about you. And I've always thought that's wrong, but us as Brits, we normally do that, which is actually really sad.
I think he deals with everything that's in front of him admirably. I think the way that he has dealt with the pressure, if I was thrust into the limelight at the age of 18, I would not have dealt with it like he would, let me tell you.
I could see almost like I think Michael Jordan had so many retirements during his career as well, where he probably might even get to 23, have a couple of years out, do whatever he wants to do, go live in Las Vegas, for goodness sake. And then the second coming, the resurrection of Luke Littler, he might come back at the age of 27, and he's still got potentially another 25 years in the tank. Right, Michael Van Gerwen versus Luke Humphries. With Michael Van Gerwen, there was never, ever, ever a challenge that is too big. There is never an opponent that's too big as well. Does Michael, because obviously Michael needs to cement his place further in the top four as well. He's already creeped back in for getting into the final last week. How is he going to put Luke Humphries under the pump in this quarter-final? Does Michael need to really go back to the dark arts and get inside of his head? Because it always makes me think about the classic meme where Luke wasn't happy with Michael over a comment. I can't remember which competition it was off the top of my head. It's always the Michael where it's like the situation, the caption's always like when your girlfriend says you've had too much to drink, but then you see 10 pints on the bar and you go, wah! Yeah. Is that the sort of Michael that we're going to need from now until the end? Because he needs to pick up points.
He needs to pick up points, and I think the narrative around MVG is intensifying, isn't it? Because yes, we know he's still capable of producing these moments of brilliance. He showed on the Euro Tour that he's still capable of picking up titles. But you're not certain that he's ever going to be able to back that up in the next event, and we're seeing that more and more. Yes, he can go and hit a 9-darter, pick up a title, then the next week he's unable to find it, and I thought it was really worrying, actually. I saw him at the Players' Championship event again in Rosmalen a couple of weeks ago, and he went out with a mid-80s average to Mario van der Beekaarden on the first day, and he walked back to his table and he sat, and I've never seen the look on his face where you could see him kind of going, I don't know what I need to do to fix this. I don't know how to resolve this issue. And I found that quite worrying. It was quite sad, actually, to see. Yes, okay, he's picked up some wins since then and the level has been up and down. But I think there has been a realisation from Michael himself over recent times where he's gone, yeah, this is actually a trickier one to resolve than even I thought it would be. Because after the World Championship, we're all going, oh, is he back? Is this Michael Van Gerwen where he's going to blitz players out of the water again? Is this him where he's going to dominate fields? And it's not. he's not able to
Do you think it's a
resolve
hangover
that
from
problem.
that World Final? Do you think it's a hangover from that?
I just think there are so many things. Obviously, with his throw, we've analysed that and how many changes there have been. And I think he's so far away from the throw that he had when he was at his peak. You know, he's had problems with his shoulder, where he injured his neck trying on a shirt.
Yeah.
You know, they're all top athlete issues, aren't they? But he's had so many issues with that. I'm just wondering whether we'll see him revert back to some old darts in the near future. That may be what he needs. But again, on that front, we saw him in the Players' Championship events tinkering with his darts mid-match.
Yeah.
When have we ever seen? We've never seen that from Michael van Gerwen, which I think paints a picture in itself.
Almost like overthinking it at the same time. I mean, Michael's one of my heroes, modern day GOAT. We all know that. But it is just tough to see it at the moment. And hopefully he can bounce back with that as well, especially with the summer coming up as well. And of course, the match play, he won't be playing in the World Cup. Right then, Luke Humphries, the return to Leeds. This is what it's all about, right? Even though he's not from Leeds, I'm not going to get into all of that nonsense again. Massive Leeds fan. Just how special. So he won the night last year here in Leeds. How special is that atmosphere going to be in the arena when I predict a riot comes on?
It's going to be electric, especially after Leeds finish top of the championship table. They're back in the Premier League next season. I'm wondering whether they're going to adapt back to the Premier League as well as he adapted to it, obviously only in his second season in the Premier League. Could they adapt as well? Who knows? But with Super Joey Roden and Ethan Ampadu, probably.
I've never been on a podcast where Joe Roden's had about 5 shout-outs. This is the first time for everything.
Get used to it. But yeah, it is going to be absolutely incredible. And the way that he is playing at the moment is phenomenal to watch, isn't it? You see, even on the Euro Tour, where, before we actually talk about the darts, genius way of picking up his water glass from the table. Don't know whether you saw that moment,
I did.
but
against
he
Connor
just kind
Scott.
of got down onto the table to pick it up. And when he was asked about that in his post-match interview, it was because his hands were already clammy and he didn't.
Well, yeah. Apparently, the arena was really
Sensational.
clammy. So when you're picking up a glass of water as well, which could be dripping due to how ice cold it could actually be. You don't want a flat glass of water, but you're drinking it like I don't even know. Almost like an animal, but I can't think of what animal it would actually be.
Yeah.
I've never, like a Wayne Mardle, I've never seen the like, Abigail.
But it was just wonderful. Before we even get on to, the less serious stuff, which is the dart in action. But, even in defeat, the performance he put in was so good. It is taking ridiculous performances to beat him at the moment. And I think it would take something pretty special from Michael to get the better of him here in Leeds. We've seen, haven't we, with Stephen Bunting in Liverpool, Gerwyn Price in Cardiff.
Yeah.
They weren't really able to
It's only
find the
Nathan
level.
that's been able to feed off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think Luke is going to be more akin to what Nathan Aspinall did. I think it's going to be more like that. I think he's going to thrive off it. I think he is going to put in some really, really top quality performances. And I wouldn't bet against him winning the night.
I think the thing that's worrying for Luke, especially off the back of last week, you cannot give players an inch. You can't.
No.
You think of Gedwin Price last week, both on the 82. Luke goes ball, tries to go for double 16, just next to the wide, doesn't secure it. Gezi goes exactly the same route, secures it. It's that little space in his head which you cannot allow someone like Gedwin Price to occupy. And it's the same with Michael van Gerwen. Because if you give him an inch, Michael van Gerwen is going to try and bully you. Like what he did to Luke Littler when Luke Littler should have cleaned it up a couple of weeks ago. You cannot let Michael van Gerwen take up any space in your brain. Right, the final quarter-final. I've told you before we start recording, I didn't put any notes down on Stephen Bunting versus Chris Dobey because it's gotten to a point now. Obviously, I love them both to bits. They're both phenomenal darts players. The PDC form table came out this morning, still occupying the top 10. They're still very in form. But at this point in the Premier League, it's sour. It's stale. Like, seeing them come out every single week is just more proof. And I'd love to get your take on this. The format. When we used to have those eliminators a couple of years back, I think it's a spectacle as the fans. They're not playing for anything now. They're not. I know they've had their nightly wins, but they're not making it to the O2. What needs to change so in the future, if a situation happens again, say, with Stephen Bunting and Chris Dobey, that the spectacle is still there? Because me as a broadcaster, you as a broadcaster, obviously I don't know what your thoughts and feelings are. I would imagine yours is probably the same as me. the viewing public, the people that are in the arena. I spoke to people last week because I thought last week was terrible in the sense of the standard, apart from get a win price. And you speak to people coming out of the arena, and they're like, "Oh no, it was brilliant." And I was like, "Well, I think that's just because you're getting canned up. I think that's potentially what it is. Like, with all due respect, whereas we're watching it with a microscope, for goodness sake. What needs to change so that this situation doesn't happen again?"
Well, there are multiple ideas. I think there is an option to maybe have a Premier League in 2 blocks where there's a huge break in the middle, and that would keep everyone fresh going into, the business end of it, if you like. But Dan Dawson, who obviously commentates on Sky Sports, came up with an idea that I probably won't do justice here, but just to give you a slight overview. And it would mean having 2 blocks of players. So you'd have your top 8 in the world.
Yeah.
But then you would have 8 other players, and you'd play kind of like, so all the top 8 would play half of the events, then the others would come in sporadically and make it up. And they can still earn points and get themselves to the finals night. But you'd have a block in the other 8 players who would make up, players like Ryan Searle, so he could play in some local Premier League nights. You could have, would Chris Dobie and Stephen Bunting, would they be in that block of them? But I just think Josh Rock, it would open it up, it would keep things fresher, you'd have more faces in there, you'd have more excitement. And when you go to Belfast, you could have Josh Rock in there. And I just think something like that, where there are more players involved, we're not seeing the same fixtures time and time again, something to freshen it up. And I think that would keep it exciting, because there are more players who could make it. The point system, you could look at that as well. I kind of liked when you could draw a game as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's what exactly like it was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Even in the inception of the Premier League, it's exactly what it was
but
like.
I think there are changes that need to be made for those reasons. Coming into this, Bunting and Dobie can't make the O2, and it takes away some of that competitiveness. The reason you watch darts, yes, we're fans of them, but you want something riding on the games, don't you? Aside from
you need that jeopardy.
A nightly win. Exactly.
It just gets a bit, like I said, stale. It's like,
I knew that was the word you were going to go for.
It's sour milk, unpredictable. If you knew what I was going to say, because I said it already. Listen, Premier League table as it stands then, Luke Littler still at number 1 on 35 points. Luke Humphries just behind him on 26. Gedwin Price a third on 22. Michael Van Goen climbed up into 4th spot off the back of last week. 20 points. Just underneath him is Nathan Aspinall on 19 points. Rob Cross in 6th with 14. Chris Dobie in 7th with 12, and Stephen Bunting right at the bottom with 8. Abigail, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Thank you for coming down to this beautiful Village Hotel. Cannot wait to see what's going to happen at Thursday night's action and see what it's got in store for us as well. And thank you for watching the Premier League Darts preview with Village Hotels from the Pub and Grill at this Leeds location. Get yourself down to your nearest Village Hotel. Come down for the darts. Come down for the football. Come down for the food. Come down for the perfect night of live sport at Village Hotels. Visit villagehotels.com for more information.